Thank you very much once again. And yes, to follow up a little bit on the topic of sustainability, environmental performance that Federico just presented with the LCA, I would like to introduce to you another very strategic tool that we are using in ALCHIMIA. We have developed ourselves at Mandat International, which is the IAM4SDG methodology, which aims, as it says, at assessing and enhancing sustainability impact of different items, including projects. So what is IAM4SDG? Basically, it stands for Impact Assessment Methodology for Sustainable Development Goals. And it is a methodology that aims to assess the sustainability performance of projects, but also we can export it to other concepts against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. If you're not familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 goals that have been agreed upon by the United Nations, which span from environmental topics, economic, social ones, even legal ones. And they're all interconnected and they're part of the 2030 framework of the United Nations. And so unlike very standard environmental impact assessments, what is unique about IAM4SDG is that it's looking both at the risks of negative impact, but is also looking into the opportunities for positive contributions of a project. So if you want, it gives a very holistic view across the different areas of environmental, social, economic, and governance dimensions. And it is a very practical tool that allows to demonstrate a project's contribution to sustainable development goals, and also, most importantly, to support strategic planning for positive impact. So it is consisting of 6 steps that you can see over here. We're going to start with impact identification, next impact assessment, priority setting, action planning, the formalization, and last but not least, the monitoring and reporting. So in terms of the parameters that we're going to use, we're going to be looking into the risk of negative impact. And for this, we're going to be using parameters like likelihood and magnitude. How likely is it that negative impact may occur, and how likely it is there's a risk of negative impact? How big is going to be this risk? And we're going to scale it from high, medium to low. And for the opportunities of positive impact, we're going to also look at the magnitude, how big is going to be the positive impact of a selected item, and how much effort do we need to basically carry out this action. And based on this, we can basically set our priorities. So what are the benefits and the key features of this methodology? Well, first of all, as I mentioned before, we're going to prove SDG alignment, and we're going to show with a very strategic methodological tool how credible is our alignment with the UN 2030 agenda. We're also going to reduce risks, maximize the opportunities. So that allows to basically mitigate any possible items that can affect the SDGs in the long run and early on in the project. But also it's going to allow us to identify some low-hanging fruit. Sometimes some positive actions do not require a lot of efforts, but they can deliver a bigger impact. Of course, a very important item, which is key in businesses, also in projects, it allows to increase the trust, the accountability, and the impact. Nowadays, we're really striving to demonstrate to other partners that we are sustainable, that this is a forward-looking initiative, and this is a tool that basically allows to validate this. And finally, as mentioned before, it encourages strategic planning, so we're turning assessments into strategies, and in the long run, into long-term sustainable growth. So who can use IAM4SDG? Well, as you can see on this slide, there are a number of actors which are our targets. Basically, we can go from the public and private organizations across very different sectors. We have run ALCHIMIA, of course, here in the metallurgical sector, but it is also used in very different initiatives. For example, we use it in the water sector, we use it in the research infrastructure sector as well, and the aviation one as well. It is a useful tool for policymakers, for regulatory authorities, but also for NGOs, civil society actors, research projects, don't need to repeat that once again, but also academic institutions, any sustainability initiatives and coalitions, policy-driven programs and funding schemes, and of course, companies, institutions, and users that seek to demonstrate a verifiable commitment to sustainable development as a whole. So now let's delve a little bit to IAM4SDG in the ALCHIMIA project. We have been working on this task for 3 years. And at the beginning, we have done a lot of workshop with the partners to discuss the possible harmful impacts, the possible positive impacts of the project. And now, as the project is closing, we can finally share the results of the ALCHIMIA project here with you. So as a whole, we have identified 28 positive and harmful impacts altogether. And then if we break them down into the harmful and the positive impacts, there were 7 harmful impacts identified, but the good news is that there was 0 high priority harmful impact from the project, 3 medium priority harmful impacts, and 4 low priority harmful impacts. And the good news is we had 21 positive identified, and here 7 high priority ones, 10 medium priority ones, and 4 low priority ones. All in all, from the 17 SDGs that exist, 11 SDGs were covered, and all the partners were involved in this process. All of them were responsible for finding solutions and mitigating or actually taking action on the positive impacts. And on the right side, you can see a little bit of a summary of the different types of SDG per type of impact that it had. So we can see that there's a long list of SDGs, especially on the positive impact side. It was affecting quite a lot of impact SDGs. And sometimes when you have the little number under the SDGs, as we have for the medium priority positive impact, it means that there were multiple impacts related to that one SDG that were identified. So in terms of success stories that we can share with you is that, as mentioned before, we identified 0 high priority risks of negative impacts. So this confirms a very strong human-centric, sustainable design of the project from the very beginning, but also a strong commitment to demonstrate that we are moving forward with positive actions in the project. 7 medium and low priority risk identified. At the end of the project, most of the mitigations are over 66% complete. So that means that some of them are actually even 100% complete. And we have 1 low priority risk at 25%. And 21 opportunities for positive impact have been identified. And among of these, we have about 85% of those opportunities that have been taken care of, and with over 66% completion by the end of the project, and a lot of them are actually around 100%. So a couple of challenges that we can mention with the methodology that we have identified is that, of course, we can see that some of the items may have had not reached the level of completion that we had wished at the beginning, but this is not always related to the performance of the project, but also very much related to the timeline dependencies in the different tasks of the project. We are running over 3 years, and not all of the action can be taken care of within 3 years period, but there are to take a note of for the future actions of the respective partners if they keep on working with said technologies. And in terms of other challenges, there is a very strong commitment to SDGs as a whole, although some of the actions are perceived as nice to have actions. And of course, that faces resource or scope limitations from the partners. Sometimes they do not have the time or the resources necessary to take concrete action within the framework of a project, which is why it's interesting to implement these strategies from the beginning and possibly to even allocate specific budget when planning for SDG implementation in research projects. So if you would like to figure out a little bit more about this result, you can check out our ALCHIMIA website. There is a specific resource section with a fact sheet, which is about the ALCHIMIA project contribution to sustainable development goals. You can have a look at this. And of course, you can reach out to me either on LinkedIn or with my personal email, and also contact Mandat International through the website. So as a conclusion, IAM4SDG proved effective in ALCHIMIA because we managed to successfully assess the sustainability in a digital innovation context. It has also allowed us to show that this methodology has a very replicable framework As I mentioned before, it can be applied to a series of different sectors. It can be adaptable to projects, research infrastructures, innovation ecosystems, and there's also potential for certification as well. There is a holistic perspective because we managed to integrate this way, not only the environmental aspect, which is very interesting, but also other dimensions like social, economic, governance. We're looking into education, gender, equality in these items as well, health, which are not always looked into with regular environmental impact assessments. It's a strategic tool and it's going to support planning, monitoring, and also supporting communication of these SDG contributions. We can shed light on our actions and maybe look into things that we had not seen before this assessment, before the brainstorming. And finally, as a recommendation, as mentioned before, I believe that it's important to apply this methodology at the very beginning of a project or even at the proposal stage in order to allocate resources for SDG-driven actions on time and facilitate this work. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the Slido. Thank you very much.